Where are the low-value men?
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site. You can believe that. You can believe that. You can believe that.
Contracted COVID, but says with a mixture of medicines, including the controversial horse dewormer that has poisoned hundreds of people nationwide, he's now recovered.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
From the headlines to the whisper start. Low value mail, low value mail at 9 o'clock. Where truth and fiction take a walk.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Our stories are.
How's it sound now? We all synced up like a bunch of chicks on their periods? God damn it, I hate this shit so much. You guys do not understand. You just don't get it. What have I done? Do other people deal with this? I've never heard of this issue, and yet it's just me. I'm the only one. Welcome back, everybody, to an all-new episode of Low Value Mail. Your prayers worked. Thank you for your praise. I really don't get it. I'm not going to lie. We had an issue with the bathhouse. Last week it was fine. Now it's saying the bit rate is higher than it's supposed to be. What the fuck do you guys want from me? Not you guys. I'm talking about the fine folks over at YouTube. I don't get it. I don't know what they want. The bit rate's not enough. The bit rate's too high now. What do you want? I'm about to turn into Michael Douglas from Falling Down. Speaking of falling down, it's a good segue. We could use Michael Douglas right now over in LA, huh? Anyways, this is episode number 148. You are looking at a broken man right now. Even though it's working now, in the back of my mind for the remainder of the show, I'm going to be like, it's just a matter of time, huh? It's just a matter of time before they come and get us. Joining me in the second hour, we have Andy Hunt. He runs a YouTube channel called CTRL+ALT+HISTORY that covers controversies, mysteries, and other strange stories that have been forgotten, as well as some conspiracies. We're going to talk to him. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if YouTube allows this to stay up. What have I done? Could it be my computer? I mean, my computer is 4 years old, but it did cost $3,000 4 years ago. You think you should get 4 years out of it? You would think. Maybe. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I need a new computer. All right. We got some ICE protests. It is riot season, back in action, and it was really only a matter of time before something like this happened. It wasn't a matter of if, but when. And depending on where you live, you can probably expect more of this in a city near you. Similar to what we saw in 2020, that, this protesting stuff, it can be contagious. It can. People see it and they go, oh, I want a new pair of shoes from a Foot Locker. Yeah, Trump, what are you doing deporting all these people? I guess I'll smash the windows of a Foot Locker and steal some shoes. That'll show you. That will show you. So now this is interesting because, I've been watching the news, the fake news media, if you will, to kind of understand what's going on. And then you go on Twitter and you find out what really happened. And it's interesting because it took me maybe an hour to find out, maybe half an hour to find out what really happened. Like what really happened. But if you watch the news, not really a mention of what really happened. So everyone thinks this whole thing in LA started And I saw this. I go, that's pretty funny. But everybody thinks this all started after ICE was targeting day laborers in a Home Depot parking lot, much like my friend Ari Shafir in The Amazing Racist. Life imitates art, if you will. Turns out that didn't actually happen. That is not at all what happened. Surprise, surprise. That is not what happened. A bunch of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents had met up in an office park staging area that happened to be across the street from a Home Depot. So they were, and I think that's pretty normal. Police do this. You ever watch those shows where they're like, they do raids and stuff, like SWAT shows or whatever? They go meet up somewhere first in like an empty parking lot, behind, and then they kind of coordinate and then they go from there. So it's kind of like a intermediary spot, right? So they meet up in this parking lot, an office park, to just, I guess, coordinate, get their shit together across the street from a Home Depot. A California State Assembly member, Luis Solache Jr., assumed he saw them. He was driving by and he just assumed, he goes, he sees all these ICE agents, customs agents near a Home Depot, and he's racist. This is a racist man. So he just assumes, oh, they're just there to round up illegals in the Home Depot parking lot. But that wasn't the case. They were just doing their, cleaning up the streets, getting murderers and rapists, and, a few slipped through the cracks. Let's be honest. Some people slipped through the cracks. You get your abuelas and it's the only really word I know, but you accidentally get, an 18-year-old college student, or they are here legally. They're not in the country legally. That's obviously a different discussion, but these aren't the rapists and murderers that Trump kind of promised they would clean up, if you will. So anyways, he goes and he tweets about it. And that's how this whole thing started. Just a big misunderstanding. And so then the protesters, they start surrounding the officers, and then things escalated from there. Now, look, leftists have never met a protest they didn't like. No person is illegal, after all, and they're not exactly quick to gather facts before rioting. They're very much a shoot first, ask questions later, as you should in this kind of thing. Why would you want to know? Someone's asking, am I here legally? Goddamn, of course I'm here legally. Are you in your mind? I'm a goddamn patriot. And look, I'm not the only one to say this. I'm sure some of you have been saying this. But if you're protesting, and I want to say this specifically, if you're protesting deportations, like specifically deportations, if you are protesting people getting deported, why the hell would you be waving the flag of the country these people are getting sent to? It makes zero sense. This isn't the World Cup, okay? The World Cup, everybody's like, you should never be waving a other country's flag in a country. I mean, I don't have an issue with it during sporting events. That's all good and well. And I have always thought, don't get me wrong, I have always thought, and look, I'm guilty of this. Canada played America, and, you will not catch me dead supporting the United States hockey team. Just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I could live here for the next, I was going to say 80 years of my life, but then I was like, put me at 120. I was like, I'm probably not even going to make it to 65. Let's be honest. But even during sports, people will be like waving the flag during the World Cup. And then, but there is an element where you're like, yeah, but that country sucks. That's why you left. I get that. But during deportations, that is really next level crazy, and just really does not make sense unless you're going for just some sort of straight agitation. Like you're really trying to rub it in people's faces where they're like, look, we're Mexican, we're here illegally, and you will not deport us. But they will deport you. They will deport. I mean, the Panopticon is watching right now. They literally had photos of this one guy. He was wearing some kind of softball jersey from his local team. and I think Laura Loomer found him. And they're offering $50,000 rewards. They're coming to get you. Do not deport me to ICE. Please. It'll be a waste of your time. Unless you really want to waste your tax dollars, then go ahead, deport me to ICE. Me and ICE will have a good laugh about it. They'll check my papers and they'll go, nothing untoward here. Nothing untoward here. But so Trump was right to call the National Guard. Obviously, that's the big debate now. He's calling the Marines the National Guard. And he was right to call in the National Guard, like he should have on January 6th. I know that's a contentious topic because some people say he did call in the National Guard. At best I could find is that he was merely kind of discussing whether he should, but he didn't actually do it. But federal law officials literally surrounded by tons of people, totally outnumbered. And this can only really turn out one of two ways, right? Either the police defend themselves, kill some protesters, which then launches protests all over the United States. It would be George Floyd all over again. We don't want that. We can all agree on that. We don't want people to die. Some of you definitely do. As I was saying that, I go, some of you are like, yes, we do. But it seems like an easy decision, right? Is either, it's all they can do. And it is interesting that a lot of these people who are essentially insurrectionists were the same people. They said that January 6th was an insurrection. This conveniently is not an insurrection. It's not. It's just peace. It's literally, if these are the rules, if the left does it, it's a peaceful protest. If the right does it, it's an insurrection. What don't you understand? It's very clear. The definition of an insurrection: a violent uprising or rebellion against a government or authority, often with the aim of overthrowing it or changing its policies. It's a more organized and forceful form of resistance than a mere revolt. Textbook insurrection. But those people would have to come to terms with the fact that either we are two insurrectionists or January 6th was not an insurrection. That'll be a tough one to square. It will be. But it doesn't really matter. None of this matters because this game is completely about optics. And time again, the left just plays it better over and over again. You see it every time. They play it better. Obviously, it doesn't hurt if you have the entire mainstream media apparatus, save my friends over at Fox News, kind of. I don't know if you think I saw Fox News kind of give the skinny of how this whole Home Depot thing was bullshit. Like, that's the whole thing I would be leading with. You're like, this is the only important fact here. I understand that that's not what gets the views when fucking 10 Waymos have been lit on fire. What did the robots ever do to you? What did they ever do to anybody? All they want to do is just drive you from point A to point B without having a loud speakerphone conversation while their car fucking stinks. What did they do to you? They didn't do anything, right? And they burned the Waymos, which sounds like a Spanish word. Waymo. And look, I said this 6 months ago, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. I'm very tired right now. Very tired. But Trump needs to be careful with these deportations. Look, most Americans, and I know many of you disagree with me, most Americans totally on board with just deporting the criminals, right? There are some people who are actually not on board. Those people are literally mentally ill. There's people who are like, this guy is a rapist and a murderer. And their response is, well, he went to jail. He did his time. Let him stay. Why? Why would he have to stay? But the thing is, people do not have the appetite to watch people with families who have been in America for 30 years, committed no crime other than entering the country illegally, be deported. My whole TikTok, every time I go on TikTok now, all it is just some box-shaped woman, looks like a tan SpongeBob, just bawling her eyes out because she's been separated from her family all because she, was like, went to some hearing that she was, and she's quote unquote done everything right, aside from being in the country illegally. And the problem with America is there's so many people here who were brought here when they were like 2 years old. And I know some of you are just like, send them back. But that's the one where I go, you can't send them back. They're Americans. I understand they're technically not Americans, but you're like, if you grew up here, at some point, if you came here when you were 2 and you're 20 years old now, you're American. I know you're, on paper, you are not. But there needs to be some sort of common ground. Because here's the thing. It's a lot of you are just like, send them all away. Not a winning strategy. If your goal is to hold on to power and there's other things that matter to you other than this, it's not a winning strategy, and it could politically hurt him for sure. And again, the truth doesn't matter. It's literally just matters what most people believe. That's it. And again, you're going to see way more of these protests in other cities. Also, where are the blacks? Where are the black people? Have you guys been watching this? Where are they? You think some of them would be kind of showing up, lending a hand, lending a voice, if you will, for the marginalized? Where are they? I haven't seen any. And I actually didn't realize this. There's less black people in LA than Asians. The blacks have kind of been relegated, if you will. But where are they? Because here's the thing. The blacks didn't vote, especially the black men. They didn't vote for Trump like Hispanic men did. Hispanic men love Trump. He got like 55% of Hispanic men voted for Trump. The blacks were like single digits. But it looks like the blacks and the Hispanics, they got a little beef we maybe didn't quite know about. It's one of those things where the blacks see this going down and they go, that's unfortunate, but you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go. No, we will not be protesting on your behalf. The really only constant in all of these protests is just liberal white people. That is the only constant in every single protest. Liberal whites. You can set your fucking watch to that shit. It's liberal whites. Like there were some Hispanics who marched in the George Floyd stuff in 2020, and they probably figured they would get some support for their thing when that arrived. Much like the Jews. Wrong. A lot of Jews. Remember Amy Schumer? When October 7th happened, she goes, I marched with you. Where are you to support my cause, blacks? And the blacks are like, yeah, all my landlords are Jews and I hate them. So I really hope that one day there will be some kind of cause that specifically affects liberal white people, just so they can see that they're truly useful idiots and zero people show up to support them. It would be great. I mean, liberal whites would rather be dead than support a cause in their own self-interest. So we will never see that happen. But it would be nice, just because they would literally be like, there would be whatever the cause would be. They would show up and it would just be all whites and they would just be like, ew. Tough look. Big yikes. We're going to open the phone lines shortly. Again, we started a little late, so things are a little off. Greta Thunberg has been kidnapped. Can you believe it? She's been kidnapped. The awful Israeli government set an absolute new low yesterday when they literally kidnapped former climate activist Greta Thunberg. You got to say it like the meatball guy from the Muppets. She made a video saying the Swedish government needs to put pressure on Israel to release her and her comrades, of course, because they're hostages. So, well, that's fucking rich. You want the hostages released now? Oh, so you're pro releasing hostages now? Oh. Huh. Interesting. The entire thing's truly idiotic. It's obviously a stunt. My main question here is, because I might have missed this, but did she solve climate change? Did I miss her solving climate change? Because I thought that was the biggest threat people are facing in this world is climate change, right? Because there's a few million Gazans dealing with the Israeli army. Literally every person on earth is a hostage of rising sea levels and increasing temperatures, right? That's what I was under the impression of, that this is the most pressing issue in the world is climate change. Did she beat climate change? Did I just miss it? I mean, it's kind of overcast today. It's June 9th. Overcast on June 9th. I was planning on going to the pool today. No bueno. No pool. It's kind of a little, I would even say it might be a little chilly. I mean, it's still spring. Guess that was just total bullshit. I guess the whole thing, just complete bullshit. It's what it was, huh? Look how that works. Look how that works. Just complete load of shit. Her climate activism could literally be saving every one of us from a fiery death. But instead, it turns out these few million people are much more important than defeating climate change. Sucks to know. Sucks to know. But if one good thing comes of this, at the very least, it's that these climate alarmists can just shut the fuck up forever. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. It's over. You showed us who you are. Because I thought climate change was a big issue. Turns out it's not. Anyways, the phone lines are open. We're going to do open lines for 30 minutes. Like and subscribe to the channel if you're an audio listener. And make sure to follow the podcast. Leave a review. If we hit the super chat goal, I'll do an extra 30 minutes. And I'll also give one super chatter a patreon.com membership, 6-month membership. Once I hit 500 patrons, I'll give away $500. Also, if you enjoy the show, you want to help me keep doing it, you can sign up to patreon.com/low-value-mail. But you can also just tell a friend. The YouTube algorithm is unkind to me. Obviously, YouTube wants to destroy me. It could not be more clear that YouTube has it out for me. The show doesn't do well in the algorithm. It's just not going well on YouTube. But you can tell a friend. Tell a friend. And also, God willing, we'll have a new episode of The Bathhouse tomorrow night, 9 p.m., live from the Stand Comedy Club in Green Room. I don't know why I feel like I'm losing my voice a little bit. Also, like the stream. 38 likes? How dare you? How dare you only give me 38 likes? You people are literally worse than Greta. And I don't say that kind of stuff lightly. You're literally worse, okay? 38 likes. Doesn't even do anything. It's just like a personal disrespect. All right, let's go over to Ireland right now. And we'll be joined at the top of the next hour with Andy Hunt. Hello, James from Ireland.
How are you, Danny?
I'm very well. How are you?
All right. I just because I was curious about, you're having riots in the States?
There's a few, it's just localized in Los Angeles, and it's like an intersection. Like, as someone who lives in New York, or, the pro-Palestine riot things happen, and everybody's like, man, New York must be crazy. And you're like, New York is a huge city, and this is at a single intersection, which is kind of what's going on in LA. It's localized to like a tiny area of Los Angeles, but the National Guard is getting sent in, which is, I don't know if you guys have some Irish equivalent. It probably has a very silly name if you do, though.
I mean, last time that happened, it started the Troubles, so I don't think we're doing that again.
The Troubles. I hate the Troubles.
People died.
Nobody died. But I did see one video, though, of some guy who was trying to block a, ICE van. They had, pinned them in, and the van was, with cops in it, and they couldn't move. So then they were driving very slowly, and the guy was, on the hood. like holding the hood, essentially walking backwards as the car was moving. And then at one point he got, I guess, tripped and just cracked his skull on the ground.
Oof.
And apparently they're saying he's brain dead. I contend he was brain dead to start.
Oh.
Feel free to use that one, anybody.
Yeah, I think I probably will pass, but I'll put it in the tank for future.
Why not? Yeah.
I wanted to, because I was just curious about just something else going on in America.
Yeah.
Did you guys like cut all your foreign aid?
Not all of it, but I think a lot of it. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it. Yeah.
Like, why? Like, why'd you do that?
I think because a lot of it, well, one is the United States spending is unsustainable. Probably the foreign aid is really a drop in the bucket at the end of the day, and probably it's not going to be negligible, or it will be negligible. My apologies, but I think they were saying that a lot of it was just getting mismanaged and was a lot of scams. But they definitely did cut aid to people who probably could have really used it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I saw one thing that was pretty fucked up. Apparently they accidentally cut off like AIDS medicine to babies or something.
Yeah.
Which stopped them getting AIDS from the mothers. So then a bunch of babies got AIDS and like they're
again,
they're dead now.
I'm very sympathetic to this. Why is this America's problem? It's literally, do you know how much that medicine costs per kid? It was like a penny a day. Why can't Ireland pay it? You guys got tons of money. You guys have like one of the highest per capitas in the world. Why doesn't Ireland pay it?
We do.
I'm not even American.
We are part of it. Like, we are doing it. Like, do you think it's just you who's doing the shit? Like, we're also in the Africa shit.
Yeah.
Like, did you really think it was just America?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not pro cutting off the one penny a day to save that seems like a bargain, to be honest. If it's actually a cent a day, $36.50 a year to save an African baby that may one day invade your country, that seems like money well spent.
Can I make the like logical pitch for it?
Sure.
Like the idea is AIDS it doesn't really tend to follow borders, right?
Yeah.
So if you stop these kids getting AIDS, it means less AIDS comes into your country. Second pitch is,
that I disagree with, because wealthy nations, because now you can't get AIDS anymore because you need to get HIV first. And now the prophylactic drugs for HIV, I've said this many times. It's so weird to me that if you watch like Monday Night Football or Sunday Football, you're bombarded with advertisements for HIV medication.
Yeah.
Which seems like the wrong audience,
your ads were so fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, again, nowhere else.
Oh, why? Not enough softcore pornography for you, European?
No, why? We don't have that. We have ads for, like, the shops. It's Ireland. We don't have, like...
Oh, you guys don't have the softcore porn?
When I went to America...
It's like more like an Italy thing?
I saw in America, when I went there, you had a military parade. On the parade, I saw advertisements. Like, every fifth float was fucking sponsored. No one else does that but you.
Hey,
in the middle of the parade, I saw things saying, please don't deport these veterans, because somehow you accidentally conscripted some non-U.S. citizens who served in Vietnam, and now they're getting fucking deported. And at the end, a random Chinese parade followed the thing. I don't know why.
We love our parades. Also, that doesn't make sense because you get automatically a green card if you serve in the U.S. military. That's the quickest path to getting a green card. I don't know. Also, someone corrected me. It's $3.65 a year, not $36.50. So that is really well spent.
Can I make the second pitch?
Yeah.
Like, for the AIDS stuff? If people are like starving or sick or whatever, they're going to leave their country to find a better life, which means they go to you.
No, they go to you. I got bad news for you, pal. They don't go to America. There's a fucking entire ocean in between.
You get South America.
Yeah, but that's never
America, man.
Yeah, but South America never turning that spigot off. Although apparently they've done a pretty good job sealing up the border right now. And So yeah, but the Africa thing, that's your problem, pal, and enjoy it. But no, I mean, look, it's
that's more Italy.
Yeah, it's more Italy. Yeah, they tend to go to the
Ukraine
sunnier
mostly.
Yeah, well, similar. They tend to go to the sunnier. The Africans like somewhere warmer, understandably.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean,
a lot of Ukrainians.
Like Central American, Mexican immigration has always been an issue in America. It will always be an issue here. As good, like, you know, they're like, we sealed the border, and they go, okay, that all that means is they just have to figure out new shit and move it along. James, I gotta let you go though. I got a bunch of people waiting. But
wait, can I just say my one final pitch?
Yes.
The reason?
Yeah.
I'll be clear. I am pretty sure a big reason those countries are fucked up is because of America.
You're saying Africa, as the shitty African countries are fucked up because of America?
Yeah, like you assassinated a lot of leaders and backed a lot of dictatorships, and most of your money comes from the poor. Like all your electronics come from the Congo, where the average person makes like $400 a year.
Well, the electronics come from Asia. Some of the raw minerals,
the fucking raw materials. You know, the lithium.
Some of the lithium.
All of that comes from Africa.
Yeah,
and you did assassinate a lot of democratic a lot of democratic people and install dictators.
Gotta crack a couple eggs if you want to make an omelet. Yeah, I don't know if they do that anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean though. All right, James from Ireland, everybody. Thanks, man. That was James. Let's take another call here. Hello, you're on Mobile Email.
Yo, Danny, it's Sean. How you
doing,
man?
What's up, buddy? How you been?
I've been doing all right, man. So I want to draw a parallel to the protests that are happening in LA and to a protest that happened back in 2009 in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
In 2009, Pittsburgh hosted the G20 summit.
Okay.
And if you remember way back to those times, that was like the Wall Street thing, all that shit. So a bunch of people protested in Pittsburgh in a neighborhood called Lawrenceville. They got, they're shutting down the streets, all this shit. So anyway, what happened was the police in Pittsburgh, they used a thing called a sound cannon.
Yep. They had a similar thing at the exact same time in Toronto, actually, for the G8, I believe, and it was a whole fucking debacle. This was in, I think, also 2009. 2010, maybe.
It's called the LRAD. So it happened in Pittsburgh. It was the first time that it was ever actually used on the public. It had only been used in military operations like Somalia and shit. So in 2009, it was the first time they ever brought it to the people. And I believe there's been a whole bunch of lawsuits and shit that's been brought up because it caused hearing damage, all sorts of shit like that.
Did anybody win their lawsuits? Successful lawsuits or just lawsuits?
Danny, I don't know. You would have to look into it.
Because a lot of people in the G8 in Toronto in 2000, I think it was 2010, similar thing is people were protesting. That was at the time when, it was all the like black bloc people and all the Occupy Wall Street types.
Occupy Wall Street. That's it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. All those like chronic crazy leftists who many of them became right wing after COVID. But a lot of those people were like getting unlawfully arrested, essentially. They were just like, like there were people who were walking around just looking at the protests, and then they got kettled and just arrested.
It happened in
and they sued, but I don't think anybody was successful.
I mean, that's about it. I mean, so just be aware that they tested it in my city first, and they're gonna.
Well, they tested it in Somalia first, which kind of gives maybe James a little credence.
But I mean, if I had to say it, against U.S. citizens, they tried it here. They're gonna start doing it in L.A.
I mean, there's probably a case. I mean, did you see that shit where they shot some Australian journalist? She was just like reporting, and then she just cop like
dude
literally
straight up pointed.
He just turns to her and just shoots her in the back with a rubber bullet.
Yeah, dude, that was fucked up.
Yeah. That
okay,
was
so one other thing before I go.
Yeah.
You're talking Greta. You're talking Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever talked about it. This girl is a victim of fetal alcohol syndrome, and if you look into her background, she's, I believe, a Rockefeller.
No way. She's a Rockefeller?
Yeah, dude. If she's not a Rockefeller, she's related to the Rothschilds. It's one of the two R names. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I mean, there's an R name that I tend to use for her, but it's neither of those.
I know exactly what you mean, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, man, have a good show, buddy. I'm
All
out.
right.
Love you,
Later,
buddy.
Sean, everybody. Yeah, that I've never heard. Never heard the R name. Okay, let's take another call here. Hello, you're on Low Value Mail. Who am I? Oh no, a little blew my wad a little prematurely, if you will, because they're not there. All right, let's go to Slav. Slav knows how to pick up quickly, doesn't he? There he is. Hello.
What the? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Hello. What's going on here, guys?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, I had a little bit of thing about the whole Greta situation.
Yeah.
Yo, Israel being pussy ass bitches, because what the fuck is she going to do when she pulls up to a bunch of rubble? Like, there ain't shit left in Gaza. Like,
I mean, she's not going to do anything.
Like,
I mean, they're not letting international journalists in. They're not going to let her. I mean, imagine they let her in and then, like, fucking, I don't know, a bomb went off and she died.
How old she,
I mean, she's an adult. She's an adult. She's not a kid. She looks like she's 10, but she's an adult. She's like 20.
Yeah, she looks like a child. And the IDF, they're only capable of killing children on their ground operations. Because the Israelis, if you look at combat footage of Israelis on the ground, they suck at war. They
seem historically pretty good at war. They're good at psychological war.
No, like
they're good at kinetic war.
But in terms of boots on the ground, like actual ground troops, and especially in urban areas, dude, they suck. Like, it's hilarious.
I don't know what the metric is for who would be historically good at that.
America.
Oh, for all the wars that they've won recently? Oh yeah, well, great track record for America. I haven't won a war since what, the 40s?
No, in terms of tactics. Like,
yeah, and who taught them those tactics? The Jews.
No, they didn't, dude. All that stuff is, dude. The Jews done nothing but rely on terrorism. Like, do you know that the word terrorism came into the English language and lexicon because British were ascribing it to the Jewish terrorists for the Haganah and the whatever and the other group that
Irgun or whatever.
IDF.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah, them. And the Levon affair and the King David hotel bombing, all that shit. Like, the Jews always been the original terrorists.
I mean, if you think the Jews are bad at war, you don't have a lot of good examples of it other than...
No, literally look at them. Like, they can only rely on artillery and JDAMs. But that was just my whole thing on Greta. Is like, what the fuck is she going to do? Like, she's going to show up with a boat and just bitch and moan? Cool, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, who wants to listen to another fucking chick just fucking wail away? You go, no, thank you. Here's a sandwich. Out of here.
Yeah, but with the LA stuff, they're being too kind using paintballs and rubber. They just need every single block in LA should become Kent State.
Sure.
Like, call up Kim, get those Plant Koreans up on them rooftops. Start popping these motherfuckers.
Do you see that one of the OG rooftop Koreans is like on Twitter right now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And he's so funny, man. He's like one of the OG rooftop Koreans. He's got like a big Twitter account and he's just kicking around on Twitter.
Yeah, bro. Let's start a GoFundMe.
He's super based. He is super based. Yeah. But again, I don't think people keep comparing this to the LA riots. The scale of this is like nowhere near the LA riots.
But the scale is that 30 million illegals who flooded in like
To
goddamn
LA?
roaches. No, into America.
Yeah.
Like,
It's probably
overall, it's all these fucking illegals, these
Yeah, but
goddamn
they're-
creatures.
But
Like,
here's the thing: is people like you're we could call you a race realist. Would that be fair to call you that?
dude, I don't care what the fuck you call me. I see it as I
Sure,
call it.
but you need to be an immigration realist. You're not getting rid of them, okay? If you think that
Yes,
it is
we can.
even
We can.
no, you can't. It's not possible to deport
deport them to
30
the
million
afterlife.
people.
Just shoot them all.
Well, you know that's
Like,
not
I'm not
happening.
even playing. No, you can. They have no problem shooting each other, whether they're here or back in their shithole country. Just drag them out in the street. If they don't want to leave, just literally shoot them in the street.
You want this to be like
and
more
shoot
like
them,
a Philippines situation, like a Duterte situation.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, unfortunately,
If you're not white and you can't speak English and prove your papers, either pack your shit and get out, or you're gonna go.
I mean, there's lots of white
you're
people who
either about
can't
to
speak
be
English. There's a whole Polish enclave in New York City where none of them speak English.
But they're
Literally
white.
born.
They're white. They're fine. They're white.
That's the
They're
race
fine.
realism part. Yeah.
Wait,
Well,
but do you know?
unfortunately,
brown people who are illegal?
You're
Do you know brown people who are
you're like a utopian, similar to like the crazy leftists who are utopians, where all your ideas are just dog shit and impractical.
No, it's not impractical. It's very simple. But wait, Danny, do you know brown people and black people who are illegal here illegally?
Do I personally know any?
Yeah.
No, but they exist certainly. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I mean, again, like
Because if you know them,
the visa
if you
overstays
know them,
is the biggest issue. That's the thing. Is the visa, like everybody's like, oh, they're sneaking into the border. No, they're not. They literally show up and they go, I'm going to see New York City for a week. I just want to see this great country. And they go, okay, have fun. And they never leave.
This is why we need to undo this whole Immigration Act of 1965. Literally, the only people who should be allowed into America are just white Europeans. And when I say Europeans, I don't
Again,
mean
this
like some
is
fucker
your
from Africa.
crazy leftist ideas. It's just not going to happen,
hard.
though.
It's not.
It's not going to happen. It
It
is
can
not
happen.
going to. No, it can't. It's never going to happen. They're never going to make a law that says that they go, we'll accept white people as tourists and nobody else. Never going to happen.
No, we need to bring back apartheid. Either wake up Jim Crow or make like look what happened to South Africa. In South Africa, they
things looking
had
doing great
dirt
there.
Roads, they had paved roads. Yeah,
But they already have paved roads
Zimbabwe.
here.
Yeah, what is it in Zimbabwe?
What do you think? We're going to have
Rhodesia,
fucking
they
flying
drove-
cars? Is your strategy going to get us to flying cars?
If you care for flying cars, you must be some kind of delusional faggot.
I'm
Nobody gives a shit
delusional?
about that.
Wow. I'm the delusional one now. All right.
Dude, imagine if Luis Gomez had
Yeah.
a flying car.
Sure.
There'd be a 9/11 every day. Like,
That is a good point. That is a good point. There would be
and plus, we have too many Chinese here for flying cars. That's the other thing. Okay, we can only let in white Europeans and Japanese and Koreans. The Chinese are all fucking spies.
see the Chinese, they popped that Chinese woman who brought in that like fungus that was going to basically like kill all the crops.
Danny, I went to university. If you go to any university, every single foreign slant that is from Peking, they're all here on CCP sponsorship. All the Chinese classmates I had, the ones who were foreign as fuck, they never hung out with anyone. They never drank with us, got high with us. All they did was sit in class and then take pictures of everything for recon and then send it back.
They were really big into amateur photography, huh? All of them.
It's not even a joke. Like, they literally, this is how China steals technology. They have like, how the fuck does Xi Jinping's daughter be allowed to live in Boston? And how does Boston have a Chinese mayor?
Is a very valid point. Not the Chinese mayor part, but the Xi Jinping thing. Okay, I gotta let you go because I got so many other calls. Later, Slav, everybody. All right, we're gonna try and get. I'm gonna close the phone lines right now because we're not even gonna get to all of these. I apologize. I'm bad at doing this. Let's try TJ again. Let's try him again. We'll get to as many as we can. TJ, are you there?
Hi, I am here finally.
What's happening?
I hit pound, not
it.
start.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. What's up, dog?
All right. So I'm gonna go inverse of everyone we've talked so far. So I'll give them China. I'll give them China on that one.
Yeah.
They do have loyalty to the home country, and if you look into it, they do threaten your family members living there.
I mean, you live in Canada, right?
Well, yeah.
You know what shit's going on with fucking the CCP and the Canadian government. They're fucking shit up.
Well, they have private. Did you hear about the private police?
Yeah, they have one in New York City. They found one in New York City, actually. It's not even just a Canada thing.
So I'm just saying, I'll give them that one.
Okay.
Now to rib him a bit, I'm like, we just got to get more white Germans in here, man. That's all we need. Nice white Germans.
I don't, honestly, if tomorrow they opened up the border in the United States and they go, as many white Germans can come here as they want, I don't know they'd get that many. I don't think that many want to come. They think they're better than Americans, and they think that America is a worse country than Germany.
Fair, but I would argue that if you look at several of the originally founding states and like cities in America, like Louisiana with the French and stuff, there's a lot of German ones, and they did have a big German during the 1945s.
Yeah,
and then during the 40s,
Germany wasn't super great in 45. Depends on who you ask. But I mean, here's the problem.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. They're getting hyped during.
What I'm about to say is going to give Slav a absolute rock hard erection, but there's no shitty white countries. So it's, everybody who comes into America, they're generally coming from a worse country, but there's generally not really any like really, they have problems.
Fair enough.
They have problems, but there's no like real dumps.
Country kind of equivalent. Yes, I'll give you
like I was in Scandinavia. I was in Scandinavia. They don't want to come. Like some of them do, but like the plurality of them, they don't want to move to America.
Yeah. And when did all the original white immigrants come in? When everything was really shitty.
Yeah,
famine,
the troubles, the potatoes, all that shit. Now they've got it all figured out. They don't want to leave.
Also, I need a little bit more knowledge on this Greta Thunberg thing. I have not heard about this.
Anyway, she got on a little flotilla thing and tried to break into Gaza, and
they got captured by Israel.
She got captured by Israel. She's now an Israeli hostage.
Well, what a shocker! I assume she was posting it all the way there.
Yeah, so
it's kind of like she was trying to get captured. One would say.
Yeah. I mean, she knew that's what was going to happen. It's a big publicity stunt, but again, most importantly,
she does
climate change has been defeated. All right, TJ, I got to let you go. Sorry, I got so many people waiting on the line. No, don't apologize.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Blacks don't like Mexicans and vice versa. That's why you don't see each other at the protest.
Yeah,
it's a very racial thing from high
I
school.
think the Mexicans showed up for George Floyd, though. I think that was everybody kind of popped in for that one. But I think
for the Irish guy, we can always kill all the AIDS people being super negative. And soft power is what we use money to give to foreign people for that stuff. You're assuming in an altruistic world that they get the money, and it's not being like
I think that was
$100 million and $10 million, like $100 gets sent to the thing.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
The end. It's a lot of you guys don't fuck around. We'll pay you money. We'll say it's for AIDS. We'll say it's for this. It's the same thing he was saying with the CIA agents and how they overthrowed democratic places.
Yeah, exactly.
You pay enough people money. All right, I'll let you go.
All right,
later, as always.
Later, TJ. All right, we're going to take a few more calls, and then we're going to get to our guest, Andy Hunt. We got Cosmo over here. And if I don't get to you, I apologize. You can call back during the show. Hello, Cosmo.
Hello.
How are you there? What's happening?
Hiya. Yeah,
hey.
Good, thanks. Yeah, basically, I just wanted to discuss. The guy called about, America's causing all the problems in Africa.
Yeah.
Seems like complete nonsense that. These weren't all democratic, lovely places.
Agreed.
That, that immediately got overthrown. These alleged democracies were, horrific and probably deserve to be overthrown.
This is kind of like this is like we was Kang's like Wakanda shit, where you go, you're talking about a thing that never existed here.
Yeah, you know, I'm from the UK, and we get all the shit about the empire and all that kind of stuff. And frankly, like a lot of these places were developed, and yeah, okay, the infrastructure was mainly to extract their stuff, but it's still, you can still build on it.
Yeah,
you know, it's not
absolutely. There's a really viral clip of some Nigerian, I think he's a politician or some sort of Nigerian intellectual, and he's on some podcast, and he's talking about how he's like, we don't maintain anything here. Like, he's like, you know, all the white people, he's like, they maintain all their shit. He's like, we don't maintain anything. He's just like, everything that they built us just literally became rubble, essentially. He's like, we don't have a culture of maintaining our things.
There's that documentary, Empire of Dust. I'm sure some people might have heard of it, where it's about a Chinese company trying to build a road in order to get some minerals from Congo. It's like made in like 2011 or something like that.
Okay.
And it's basically about how they can't be bothered to do any of the work. All the workers steal their stuff, and all the infrastructure they've had, because they had like railroads and all sorts of stuff that even China didn't have back in the 50s, and they just let it all go to waste.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Again, I don't think the reason why certain countries in Africa are shitholes is because of America. I just don't. Don't believe. It's an easy thing to blame, to not have to take responsibility for it, but not buying it.
Yeah, I mean, loads of countries do that. Even in like Eastern Europe, there's loads of countries that do the same complaints.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they complain about it.
I mean, I just saw Poland. Poland had one of the lowest per capita GDPs as of like the 80s, and now they're like one of the best economies in Europe.
Yeah, they're smashing it.
They're killing it. Poland is absolutely killing it.
Well,
and
you know,
what?
That's what happens when you got a control on immigration. You know what I mean? It makes it easier.
Sure. Yeah. That's
more high trust.
Nice little white
one of the things also I heard.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I heard Slav was talking about. It's completely unfeasible to deport all these people.
It's impossible.
All the normal people.
It's literally impossible.
Everyone would be happy if you just immediately got rid of all the bad people. Like
of course. I mean, that's what Trump won on.
Spastics.
Yeah, like that's what Trump won on, and absolutely, if you could just do that, like you do great. And again, I don't think most people in America who were maybe like, yeah, I've voted Democrat before, I voted Republican this time because I didn't like what was going on with the border. Like, they're not gonna like seeing this shit of just like families getting broken up by people, and you know, someone who came to America when they were 2 and getting sent back to a country they've literally never been to and don't know the culture, and they pay taxes and they're educated and they're productive members of society. I'm like, I just don't think most people are going to like that.
I just think even if that was a thing that people did want, I mean, let's get rid of these guys first. There's clearly going to be millions of other ones.
I mean, your best case scenario, you're deporting 2,000 people a day at an insane cost. It's like 750,000 people a year. Like we're talking about generations to get rid of these people. And by the time you do, like, you know, they're going to have tons of kids, and it's just impossible. It's not possible. There needs to be some sort of middle ground.
You guys need a better system though, because it doesn't make sense. Even if you were to get rid of 2 million in a year, if the next administration lets another 10 million in.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's like they overdo this. They overdo this. Democrats get in, they just open that border wide open, and it was all for nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Cosmo, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it, man. Cosmo.
No worries. See you later, bye.
Take it. Cosmo. All right, we're going to take 2 more callers here. Let's go to Dylan. Dan Buckley says, Slav's call in the rotation is like hearing Waiting in the Velvet Sea live. And yes, the Chinese tried to bring us Grovid-19. Oh, I like that. Dylan!
Mr. Danny.
What's up, buddy?
I hope there's no hard feelings from last week for hanging up on Rube.
No.
I don't have hard feelings.
I don't know why you don't like Rube, but it's, hey, man, people got their personal beefs, I guess. I don't know.
All right. I just want to bring up 2 things I want to give you a lead on. On my channel, we were looking at a company called Prospect Resources Limited. They have a channel on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's a lithium strip mining company that is putting out PR. It's only got 140 subscribers, and are dedicated to DEI while they have people working in strip mines.
That's good shit. That's good stuff. What country are they based out of? Where's their mine?
I don't see let's see. I'm looking at it. Looks like in multiple countries.
Sounds like some Canada.
I don't know where Mombasa is.
That sounds like Africa. That sounds like Africa to me.
It's in Zimbabwe is where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was Africa. I just didn't know which country. And then we also have been watching this lady called Dr. Catherine Horton.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was like, man, this lady is weird. She's thinks there's a thing that's she's one of these people called a targeted individual. And she's getting affected by pulse energy projectiles. And she calls it being machine gunned. And at first I thought she was a whack job. I mean, she is. And she sleeps in a room that's covered in tinfoil, wears a tinfoil hat to sleep. But she's actually a former research fellow at St. John's College, Oxford. She's actually a particle physicist. And she's really interesting. She's really worth watching.
And what is her what's her main
stuff.
What's her main what was her name again?
Dr. Catherine Horton. She's Scott Horton's sister.
Oh, okay. And what's her
that part.
what's her like main thing? Why does she cover everything in tinfoil? Like,
she and these people. Okay, so these people are convinced that they're targeted individuals. It's like basically gang stalking.
Yeah.
And she's convinced that she's being basically like Havana syndrome.
Okay.
And she's got a couple of wacky videos, but then she has like some really, really good stuff about, she breaks down like, the whole pedo, like she's well informed on all of the, like the dark shit, like all the conspiracies.
Does she have a big channel?
And when you listen to her, she got 40,000 subscribers.
Okay. Mark, if you're listening, let's try and get her on the show.
Yeah, she's really interesting. We thought she was dead because she didn't have any videos for 4 years, but she's been live streaming, and so it was kind of hidden under the live tab.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, you got to go down that rabbit hole.
All right.
Last week,
yeah, go ahead.
Last week I started to tell you in a super chat that I found a human smuggling thing on YouTube by accident.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I found this one like talent agency that had a bunch of like K-pop, or I guess they call it T-pop because they're in Thailand, girls. And there was this interview that was really creepy with like this English guy, and three of them were like, he was asking them questions and they could earn points. Like this generic shit, like knowing fashion brands and that stuff. And then I was like looking at my subscriptions recently, and I didn't know what the fuck it was because they had deleted the video. And then I started looking into it, and they're attached to this thing called Frosty Whale, and then also Frosty Wave. And what it is a frostywave.co. And what they do is they unite, where is the, you can apply to be a gentleman suitor of exceptional women. And it's all of these beautiful young women, as it describes.
Oh, it's like some mail order bride shit.
Yeah. And they deleted all that stuff. And it's run by Paulina Bielik, some kind of Slavic woman. Modern culture sold women a narrow vision of empowerment, independence at all costs, sexual freedom, endless hustle. It's led millions to loneliness and unfulfillment. Frosty Wave offers a different path, one rooted in beauty, emotional wisdom, and lasting love.
Yeah, sounds like some textbook human trafficking
thing,
right here.
Yeah, you should go to their website and check it out. You can apply. I wasn't sure if I really wanted to put my information in there, and my wife's not too keen on me buying other
Probably
women.
not. Yeah, probably not. No.
Last time it didn't go well. But what was the other thing I was going to say about this? Oh, yeah. The cool thing, you'll really like this. The chat API that they use is called TalkJays. Little on the news, huh?
Huh.
Could you get your people to kind of stop doing that kind of shit?
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up to them. Oh, that's crazy, though. I'll have a look at it. All right, Dylan, I got to let you go, but thank you. That was cool.
All right, buddy.
Good shit.
Thank you.
Dylan, everybody. All right, we're going to take one more call, and then we're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to be back with Andy Hunt. He's waiting patiently, and I apologize to Andy. We started late because we had our stupid tech issues. I hate everything so much. Okay, we have R-Worded. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Listen, the Irish guy is an idiot because his country's getting flooded by immigrants, and they used to hate Britain invading their country, and all of a sudden they're for pro-Palestine bullshit. It's insane.
Well, I understand the Irish pro-Palestine thing only because they're like, well, we had a similar thing, so they're like they can relate, even though it's not that similar. But I guess they can somehow relate in some capacity. But yeah, I don't even, like I said, I was in Dublin. Yeah. It was like the whitest place I've ever been in my life. Like, because I was expecting it to look like fucking Times Square, and I was like, this is so white here.
Yeah, but they're fast-tracking fucking Britain.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. Give it some time.
Like, Britain's getting 1 million immigrants a year, and they want them all.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the point where when Keir Starmer is like, this shit's over, we're sending them back, you're not getting in, then you know it's like, oh, this must be really bad. When he's like the most liberal guy who exists, and he's like, yeah, this is a problem.
On top of that, he's saying, oh, yeah, we had the IRA and all that shit. Like, dude, America has a history of violence.
Yes, they do.
Like, dude, in the 60s, there were riots in Chicago, New York, blah, blah, blah. This riot in L.A. could be easily squashed. Fucking easily.
Oh, yeah.
It was back in the day, but now it's just, it is highly political.
I mean, the problem with I know you say it can be easily squashed, but the easily squashed way to do it is a solution that causes more riots and more protests in every major city in America the next day, so it's not that easy. Yeah. You could say like, oh, there's an easy solution, but you're like, yeah, you make your problem way bigger here.
Yeah.
So
the Irish guy's a fucking idiot. And come on.
Love you, James.
You all came over here to do something native. Damn it. Also, Slav's an idiot because here's the thing. Listen. I know whatever. We all laugh at him and shit. What happens when all the Jews are caught? Hitler wins. Then what? That sounds utopian to me. You know what I mean? Now what? Who are we going to blame next?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there's always going to be...
shut the fuck up with that shit.
Yeah. I mean, here's the Slavs, you get rid of the Jews. It really does remind me of like the Pol Pot thing where, he was a communist, but his whole thing was like, yeah, all the smart people are ruining our society and we need to just go back to a society where everyone's kind of just average. And you go, that's not going to work. It's not going to work either. Eventually, some group is going to...
It's utopian because it's utopian. It's like then what?
Yeah. I guess you go Pol Pot style, you kill everybody with glasses.
Dude. They're still going to kill each other. They're still going to try to be corrupt and retarded.
Yeah, they'll still be... The thing is you'll still... Here's the thing. Say you get your Aryan society of all whites. It'll still segment itself into subgroups automatically. Like if you have enough people... just by nature, people will be like, well, now there's this group. Like you'll essentially have like an Indian caste system where you go, okay, well, we're all homogenous, but then we now have to break each other up into subgroups. And then one subgroup will start doing too well. And you go, and that's the problem now. And it'll just essentially be that. I got to let you go, man. I got to get to the guests, but thank you for calling in.
All right, man. Hey, peace out, dude.
Later. All right, we are going to go to the break. I apologize for running a little late here. Shout out Tony Coriolis with the super chat. And Reagan Foster says, all this anti-China talk. Meanwhile, I'm over here sending D-pics on WeChat. Yeah, you do. And they're on WeChat. They're fucking huge, I bet. This guy's top 1% over on WeChat. All right, we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back with our guest. Do not go anywhere. See you shortly.
The thing is...
Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm stupid.
Where are the low value men?
All right, we are back. Joining me today, we have Andy Hunt, creator of the Control-Alt-HISTORY YouTube channel. And you're here today. How's it going?
Good, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Very good. For people who don't, hold on, let me just make sure we're live here because I always fuck up. For people who don't know who you are, can you just let people quickly just know about yourself?
Yeah. So my site is called Control-Alt-HISTORY. I primarily just on YouTube. I create videos about just mysterious things from history. A lot of things that are just kind of forgotten about. So some would maybe categorize them as like conspiracies, but really a lot of them are just like, really strange stories and government, conspiracies that have been kind of forgotten about.
Sure. And what was the one you were just referencing was Candy Hunt?
Candy Jones.
Oh, Candy Jones. Sorry, you're Hunt. I'm retarded.
Yeah.
Candy Jones. So who is Candy Jones? This is a recent video of yours.
Yeah. So this is one of the most recent videos I did. So Candy Jones was the biggest model in the United States throughout the 1940s and 50s. So she was like the Cindy Crawford of her time. And she's got this crazy story because it was during like World War I or World War II and the Korean War. She was really heavily involved in the war effort. So she would always go abroad to like entertain the troops and, dance and sing for them and whatnot. And then she started kind of working for the government to like bring over packages and messages like
basically
with her.
A spy.
Yeah, like an undercover operative. And so she started doing that while she was on these trips abroad. And then when she got back to the United States one time, she was told to go meet this psychiatrist, and his name is William Kroger. And, or at least allegedly, that's who she met with. And then after she met with this William Kroger, she started having like these, like years later, she would recall, like look back on the time, and she would have these long stretches of time where she just couldn't remember anything. And so she ended up marrying this guy in the 1970s. His name was Long John Nebel. He was this really popular radio host. He was kind of considered like the Howard Stern of his time. He was pretty well known. And he was big into hypnotism. And so she was having trouble going to sleep. She was having really bad insomnia. So he started hypnotizing her to help her with her insomnia. And what happened was this second personality of Candy Jones started coming out while she was being hypnotized. And what this Long John Nebel eventually learned as he hypnotized her was that when she was meeting with this psychiatrist, he had fragmented her mind, because this psychiatrist was really heavily involved with like Jolly West and MK Ultra and a lot of like the really serious like mind stuff that was going on at this time. And so what this psychiatrist had done is he fragmented her mind and created an alternate personality, and they basically turned her into like an assassin almost. She was given like training on how to kill people. She was always given like messages to deliver when she was abroad, like really sensitive information. And only people who knew like her trigger word and her code word and how to access this second personality, only people who knew that trigger word were the only ones who could like, bring out this second personality and get whatever information that was buried within that. And so it is. It's really wild, man.
So they must be doing that now. Like if that's if that's something that they were able to do, 60, 80 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like there's this like pretty well-known video, like Al Roker. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he's like, he's just like, it's a really weird video.
He's a spy?
Well, it's interesting because there's like hypnotism is like such a fascinating topic. Like it's really, really interesting just to see how like a hypnotist who really knows what he's doing, like the total control he can have over someone. And a lot of times what they do is they install like a trigger word, a code word, where whenever this person hears the code word, they immediately go into a trance. So anyway, there's this video of Al Roker where it's like this Today Show segment, and somebody mentions the phrase "the Holy Ghost." One of his co-hosts does, and Al Roker just freezes, and he's just standing there, eyes wide open, not blinking, not moving. It is a really creepy video.
How'd they snap him out of it?
I don't know. It eventually cut away, and after the segment ended, he didn't move at all. It was like a solid minute or two.
Was this fat Al Roker or skinny Al Roker?
This was kind of like medium. He wasn't the fat one.
I was wondering if he was having
maybe
having a diabetic thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's how we lost all the weight. It was hypnotism.
Maybe. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So I wanted to talk to you about the Gemstone file, which you categorize as the greatest conspiracy of all time.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it is a wild one, man. So the Gemstone file was basically this like 20-page document that was actually like really popular back in like the 1970s. And this is obviously before the internet. So what would happen was people would print off this document and like pass it to their friends, and then their friends would read it and make photocopies of it, pass it on to their friends. And apparently like back in the 70s, it just spread throughout the nation like wildfire from like college campus to college campus. And what it is it's a document written by a guy who claimed that he was like majorly connected to a group of really rich, powerful people who basically like ran the world. And so because of these connections, he knew like the true story behind all these events that had happened over the past, 40 some odd years. And so he wrote it all down. And then this document that he wrote just kind of became really notorious. And it tells like the whole story of the Chappaquiddick incident, the JFK assassination, Robert Kennedy assassination, Watergate. I mean, just every...
Has any of it been verified? Like
A lot of it has. Well, that's what I do in the video. So I go through the Gemstone file entry by entry because it's arranged in chronological order by year. So it's like, 1941, this happened, 42, this happened. And, that's something I like to do a lot on my channel is like look at some of these older documents that were created before the internet and before like we had access to all this information and all these newspaper archives. And so I really just kind of go through everything that's covered in the Gemstone file and try to like substantiate it with, like newspaper articles that were going on because there's a lot of newspaper archives online. You can just search, by year, by topic. And so much of what he talks about, like, really lines up with things that were going on in the world. I mean, and it's just so comprehensive. He really gets into detail, names about, the people who were behind everything from JFK to Robert Kennedy, Watergate, Chappaquiddick, all that stuff.
Who is this guy again? The guy who wrote it?
So his name was Bruce Roberts, and he's got a really fascinating history because at one point he was he was a real expert in crystallography. So he worked in Hollywood and he outfitted like all these actresses back in the day with really nice jewelry for their appearances. And what he did was he developed a way to artificially create gemstones, artificially create diamonds. And apparently, like the diamonds that he created were just like super pure quality. They were the best. And so this was back in like the 1940s. And one technology that was just like really emerging at the time was lasers. And so one company that was super involved with laser technology was Howard Hughes Aerospace, a Howard Hughes company. And so he started working with Hughes Aerospace and working with like really high up people in Hughes Aerospace. And the Howard Hughes story is like he plays a really big part in the Gemstone file because the Howard Hughes story is like the most just insane thing of all time.
We can get into that too, but
yeah. I mean, that's just, the official story is that he basically was the Elon Musk of his time. And then in the mid 1950s, he fell off the face of the earth and no one saw him for the next 20 years. I mean, he was just never made a single public appearance. It's just such a weird story. And so what happened was this Bruce Roberts started working with Hughes Aerospace because they were so heavily involved in developing lasers, and he had these really awesome diamonds that, were vital components for lasers. People in Hughes Aerospace started feeding him information about what had really happened to Howard Hughes, and it just kind of took off from there because he also had connections in like the Mediterranean area. And another thing that really is talked about a lot in the Gemstone file is the whole opium industry, heroin. And that's where most of the opium in the world originates from, is the Mediterranean. His wife's father was the French consulate to the Indochina area. So he really knew, kind of was like really plugged into that whole area and what was going on. And there's this guy, Aristotle Onassis, who is kind of the other dude. Yeah. He married Jackie Onassis. Everybody knows him from that. So what the Gemstone file says about the Jackie Onassis killing is they said that Aristotle Onassis is the one who kind of orchestrated the JFK hit. Him marrying Jackie Onassis was like a flex. It was a mafia because he was heavily. Oh yeah. Dude.
So it was Aristotle Onassis killed JFK. What was the reason behind it? Does he give reasons, or he just is kind of like,
because JFK was cracking down on
drugs.
And Aristotle Onassis, that's how he made just ungodly amounts of money. And I mean, Aristotle Onassis didn't pull the trigger or anything like that.
But he's the mastermind.
He was the one who gave the okay. Because basically, what the Gemstone file says is Aristotle Onassis was the most powerful man alive. And, he just ran the show with the mafia. And Aristotle Onassis is just really a fascinating guy. He lived on a private island in the Mediterranean Sea. And he had the biggest yacht in the world at the time. He was just involved in all this crazy stuff. He basically owned Morocco. He owned this casino that was called the Casino Royale, considered like the most luxurious casino in the world. I mean, this guy's life was just absolutely crazy. And so what the Gemstone file says is he was like the main dude in the mafia. He was running the show, and he was kind of the one who would give the okay for a lot of these things to happen.
Crazy. And what about
It
RFK?
Aristotle Onassis again. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This guy's a bad dude. And then he married.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because, like, I imagine
like,
you would have to imagine, like, after they remarried, that, you know, some of the family members are like, you heard about this Gemstone File thing where
Well,
stepdad killed our dad and our uncle?
Yeah. Well, it came out, after Aristotle Onassis died. So the Gemstone File didn't come out until the 70s. I think he died in like 72. So a lot of what the Gemstone File covers is like things in the 60s, up into back into like the 40s and 50s, but up into like the 60s and 70s, a little into the 70s. But yeah, it's just some crazy stuff, and like so much of what he talks about in it, like once you look at newspaper articles and kind of what to search for, a lot of it's like really substantiated by newspaper articles and other things that were going on at the time. So it's pretty nuts.
And what else is in there? That's notable.
So like Chappaquiddick is in there. So they claim like for Chappaquiddick, Ted Kennedy was on the phone. It's actually pretty interesting. He was on the phone with this guy, Tunney was his name. And he was the son of a professional boxer, really famous professional boxer, Gene Tunney.
Okay.
And this Tunney guy, God, I can't remember his name, but he was a senator from California. He was Ted Kennedy's best friend. And he was saying, the Gemstone File says they were on the phone talking, discussing this kind of elaborate thing about this Tunney guy wanted to run for governor of California. Somebody else was going to run, and they were kind of talking about like maybe taking him out. And then anyway, Chappaquiddick said, or the Gemstone explanation for Chappaquiddick says this Tunney guy's sister, Joan Tunney, overheard the whole thing and was punished because she was going to tell like the conversation they were having. And it did happen because this Joan Tunney lady it's a really bizarre story. She went missing for a month right after Chappaquiddick happened. She was found a month later and she was acting all crazy. And then she ended up chopping her husband's head off with an axe. And it's like,
what?
Yeah, it's really weird. Her name's Joan Tunney. It's not like a well-known story or anything. Gene Tunney, her dad, was like a famous heavyweight boxer back in like the 20s. So he's, you can find info on him. But yeah, he had this daughter, Joan Tunney. And right after Chappaquiddick happened, she went missing for a month. And so the Gemstone File claims that she was locked up in a heroin facility abroad. And, the fumes from all the heroin and everything basically drove her crazy. Then she did reappear after a month and ended up chopping her husband's head off with an axe. So,
whoa.
Yeah, it's like weird how there's just all these like stories that aren't really that well known that are referenced in the Gemstone File that most people haven't heard of, and they might even sound kind of crazy, like just reading them for the first time, and then you like look into it and you're like, holy shit, like that actually did
plausible
happen.
Yeah, certainly.
Weird.
Yeah. Any other ones in there? Are those the main ones?
Yeah.
They're all Kennedy related?
Oh no. There's a lot of everything. Like Franklin Roosevelt, like Franklin Roosevelt's, I think it was his grandfather was one of the biggest drug dealers in the history of the United States, William Delano. And so he kind of plays a big part. He was involved with Aristotle Onassis for a while. But yeah, the main stuff is just about just how powerful and how crazy Aristotle Onassis's life was, because he supposedly made all his money just ship. He was at just this massive shipping empire, and so he was supposedly like shipping things during the war and automobiles. But what the Gemstone File says is he was really shipping drugs and just made bank. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I want to talk about the Challenger explosion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you had a video about that, the Challenger, and we're going to open the phone lines in probably like 10 minutes. The Challenger explosion and the ties to the Iran Contras.
Yeah. That's a really crazy one. Have you seen are you kind of familiar with the whole Challenger thing of like the people being discovered years later?
No, I'm not.
Oh no.
No, I was under the impression they all just blew up in the air.
Yeah. Well, that's what most people think. So yeah, the weirdest thing happened. It was probably about 15 years ago or so. Like for whatever reasons, people on the internet started like looking into the Challenger explosion, and they were Googling like, or they were searching for like the names of the astronauts who were supposedly on, the shuttle that exploded and killed them all. And there were they would find people who were just spitting images, like dead ringers for the people who died in the Challenger explosion.
Different names?
And no, in most cases they had the same
What?
name. Yes.
That's crazy.
It's so weird.
You think
Yeah,
you're like, if this is a government thing, you're like, how hard is it to just give someone a new identity?
You would think so, yeah. But it's really weird. And like 3 of them became college professors. So like it is really bizarre. And 2 of the people were supposedly identical twins, but it's like, I mean, that's pretty astronomical odds for just so happens that 2 of them had identical twins. Um, but anyway, it's always been like a mystery of like, well, like what would be the motive? Like, why would you just blow up the Challenger space shuttle if these people weren't actually on it? Like,
And then who
what
was
if
on
it
it?
was- Yeah, well, no, probably nobody. What if it was just launched remotely or launched via remote control, and they blew it up on purpose? The question would be like, well, why would you just blow up the space shuttle on purpose? Like what would be the possible motive? Yeah, no one's really ever come up with a good answer for that. But I was wondering if it wasn't tied into Iran-Contra, because Iran-Contra was like the absolute craziest, most massive story of the 80s. I mean, it was so big, so much bigger than what came out in just the Iran-Contra hearings. But what happened about a month before the Challenger explosion is there was this plane crash in Gander, Canada. And it
Gander,
was a US.
Newfoundland.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Canadian.
Okay, gotcha.
I've never been to Gander, but I know of it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
there was
so-
some of the 9/11 flights got diverted to
They
Gander.
did, yeah. So
as
there's a
well,
really-
right?
yeah,
that Come From Away, right? That
Yeah.
Broadway play is like they beat it over your head when you live in Canada. I don't live in Canada now, but it was like they were like, this is the biggest Broadway play ever, and it was about them taking in all these 9/11 passengers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the same base that's right there, the same Air Force base that's right there, or that's actually not an Air Force base, but it's a airport. That same airport, there was a flight coming from abroad. There was a U.S. military like mission abroad where they were there. There was like 250 some troops. They were there to monitor the border between Israel and Palestine, or Israel and Egypt.
Okay.
So it was a peacekeeping mission. These 250 troops were coming back from the Israel-Egypt border, and they made a pit stop at the Gander base. And then 15 seconds after taking off, the plane crashed and killed everybody on board. So 250 people died. 250 U.S. soldiers died. It's the worst air disaster in the history of the U.S. military.
What year was this?
1986.
Okay.
So this happened about a month before the Challenger crash. It was actually 1985. It was like really late. I think it was like December 24th or so, December 23rd.
Damn, day before Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. It was just right around Christmas because they were all coming home for Christmas. And yeah, like 250 some people died, U.S. soldiers, worst air disaster in U.S. military history. And after it happened, like there were all these reports from people who'd witnessed it saying, no, this thing didn't like, because the official explanation was that there was ice on the wings and that caused it to lose, control and crash into the ground. But then there was all these reports that came out of eyewitnesses who were saying, no. This plane blew up in the middle of the damn air. Like this damn plane just exploded.
Yeah, it didn't crash. Yeah, it didn't crash.
Yeah. And so then all these, I mean, the Gander crash is like this massive, massive mystery because there were like reports of these mysterious boxes being loaded onto the plane, and people didn't know like what actually was in them. So some speculated that they were explosives that had been loaded onto the plane. But what it kind of seemed like was, Iran-Contra involved Iran, obviously, and they were right over this all these 250 people were over in that area. It was the Israel-Egypt border, but Iran's just right there. And there were a couple like really interesting like things going on at that time because Iran had a bunch of U.S. citizens hostage. And so it gets into this kind of complicated thing, but basically there was thought that these some of these people on board were actually involved in the whole Iran-Contra operation. And some really shady stuff was going on with this thing. And people speculated that some of these people on the plane were whistleblowers who were going to come forward and spill the beans about Iran-Contra, because Iran-Contra didn't come out for another year until after this crash happened. So Iran-Contra was going on in secret at the time, but it wasn't known. And so if these whistleblowers had, been able to come back and tell everything, spill the beans on it, it could have caused Iran-Contra just to totally blow up and be revealed. And Iran-Contra was involved, like, if you look into it, it seems like George Bush was involved, like every major person in the CIA was involved, like all these powerful people were involved. And so basically, if people would have continued like looking into this Gander crash and really tried to find out like what was behind and what caused it and what these people were doing abroad, it could have exposed Iran-Contra. And there was all this attention paid to this Gander crash right when it happened. And there was all this media attention and everything. And then right after it, the Challenger crash happened. And the Challenger crash happened and it just stole the headlines. That was all anyone talked about. And everyone just forgot about the Gander crash. Like, it just totally vanished from the news, totally vanished from...
I mean, I've never even heard of it until you're...
No, most people haven't. Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal for just a very short amount of time, and then it just got totally overshadowed by, the Challenger crash. And, so I guess to the question of, well, if these Challenger astronauts are alive and if this whole Challenger crash had been staged, like, what would be the motive or what would be the reason for that? And I wondered in the video, like, well, maybe it was to divert people's attention away from Gander and to get them to focus on something else and just kind of forget about Gander so they didn't look into it and potentially expose Iran-Contra.
Yeah, but it's so nuts that they would do that and then not give these people, like, send them to like Argentina or something or somewhere.
I know.
You're like,
yeah,
stay
that's
in the
always the
United
weird. Yeah, I know. That's always the weird thing. Like, well, if this was like, why would they keep the same names?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
and then also the Iran-Contra stuff still came out. Like, eventually,
it came out a year later, but like the story that came out was a fraction. I mean, it was like 1% of what was actually going on. Because what was actually going on, there's this book, Dark Alliance by Gary Webb, which is a pretty well-known book, and he talks about in the book about how the Contras were really involved in smuggling drugs to the U.S. and then
he wound up dead after that book, right?
Yeah, he did.
Two shots to the back of the head, suicide.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole Iran-Contra thing. I did a separate video on that actually after the Challenger one to just really went into Iran-Contra real deep.
Yeah, and so was the Iran-Contra thing just like it was just like they were just trying to make tons of money, or I mean, obviously, I guess they were trying to like overthrow the Iranian government.
Yeah. Well, it was the Contras were trying to overthrow the South American government down there, and then they were doing it. They were selling weapons to Iran and funneling the money down to the Contras.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the official story was just that was all that was going on. Was they were funneling money to support their civil war, and that was it. But really, what was going on was they were getting drugs from these Contras and bringing them back to the U.S., smuggling them in.
Yeah.
And it kind of was like the cause of like the whole crack epidemic of the 1980s. And yeah, I mean, it involved, like William Casey, the director of the CIA, just died during the hearings, like before he could testify. Yeah, it happens.
Shit happens. I mean, to James who from Ireland who called in earlier, and he's like, yeah, America goes and destabilizes all these countries. And the thing is, we have all this, like, it's not even conspiracies that they used to do it. So the question is like, what are they up to now?
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's like, I can't imagine they're like, oh, we got caught. We'll just never do this again. It's more just like, how do we do this without getting caught? And I'm sure they have all sorts of new methods.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. If you have any questions, anything you want to talk about with Andy. I want to talk about the Howard Hughes thing, because my first introduction to Howard Hughes was literally the Simpsons episode with the Spruce Moose. Like many things, there have been so many references on The Simpsons where I didn't get the reference until I eventually saw the thing they were referencing, and I go, "Oh, that's what they were talking about." And there's like a million of them. So the Howard Hughes thing was like, I didn't realize he was just like he was the richest guy in the world, basically.
Richest guy in the world. He was the biggest playboy in the world too. This guy, if you just even look at his Wikipedia page, they have a list of all the actresses he dated throughout the 1940s, and it takes up 3 lines. It's like 20 girls, and it's all like the top actresses of the time. Like he was just total womanizer, richest guy in the world. And then in 1950, around like the mid 1950s, 1955 or so, he just vanished off the face of the earth, and no one saw him for the next 20 years until he officially died in 1976.
Huh.
No one saw him when he died either.
And
but-
I guess what they were saying is he was just, you know, some crazy recluse, and that's why you didn't see him, which I guess is convenient.
Yeah, very convenient. Yeah, that was like the official story, was that he, you know, basically went crazy. And well, first of all, the official story came out that, oh, he got married at the time. He got married to this actress named Jean Peters, and that's why he, you know, had stopped dating every woman alive, because he got married. But the marriage is like this really weird marriage. It happened in Las Vegas, and you know, people looked into it and couldn't find any evidence that it actually happened. And they came out and said, oh, well, they used fake names when they got married, which I don't even think is possible. But, and then like, yeah, I mean, there's just all these weird stories, and they saw each other like, I don't know, like once a year. I mean, it's just, they lived in separate residences and everything. So, I mean, the whole marriage sounds like just a total joke, but that was kind of like the first official story. There were a couple official stories that came out to explain his absence. The first one was that he got married, and, you know, he didn't have any use for the publicity anymore or anything like that. But then, yeah, and then kind of the whole narrative, because it's interesting, because the whole narrative that he was like crazy and growing out his fingernails, and, you know, he turned into this old scraggly man. That wasn't
Kept
the
his
narrative.
piss in jars.
Yeah, kept it. Yeah,
which is
peed
not
in
a thing a
jars.
crazy person would do, by the way. we have a caller on my other show who swears by it. He stores all his piss. He doesn't store all of his piss, but he stores some piss because it's like some sort of. I mean, he called in last week and he had been drinking half a liter of his piss every day for the past week. He says it has some real. Don't ban. I got a misinformation strike on YouTube, a medical misinformation strike, because we were joking about it, and then YouTube said that I was basically saying that drinking your piss cures cancer, which it does not. It most certainly does not. But this listener of the show is a big piss guy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe Howard Hughes was onto something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, Rube, the guy who does it, he definitely thinks he's onto something.
Yeah. I've actually heard of that before. I mean, I've never really looked into it, but I have
New video idea.
reference. Yeah, there you go.
Although
yeah.
YouTube doesn't like it.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't want to get a strike. So
Yeah. I appealed it and won though, because it was
nice.
It was like a mistake on their part because we were not saying that, but I didn't even know. I guess they just don't like you saying anything related to like
anything medical is like really.
They definitely don't want you saying like, "Hey, this thing cures cancer."
Yeah.
They're like my TikTok. I was on TikTok the other day, and there's this guy on there who has stage 4 colon cancer.
Yeah.
And so he's basically like, you know, his doctors were like, you know, you need to do chemotherapy and all this stuff, and he's just like, I guess he's like kind of religious guy, and he's like, no, I'm just gonna go on a 40-day water fast, and then to cure his cancer. And then at one point he's like, I haven't eaten in 36 days. And he's like, I'm pretty sure I shit my tumor out today.
Whoa.
Yeah, no. But then he went to the doctor and they're like, yeah, your tumor has doubled in size. And you have less than 6 months to live. So, yeah. So take these things with a grain of salt, not medical advice at all. But anyways, back to the Howard Hughes thing. So yeah, what was what's your opinion on the disappearance for the 20 years?
Well, it's interesting because going back to the Gemstone File. So what the Gemstone File claims is Howard Hughes was kidnapped by Aristotle Onassis. So
What?
again, yeah.
Again?
So, yeah. And so they said that there was this big elaborate scheme where Aristotle Onassis had his team kidnap Howard Hughes. They drugged him up for like 30 days and just basically turned him into a shell of a person. Then they brought him to Aristotle Onassis's private island, and he was kept as a prisoner there on the island. And what's really
Where was the
interesting,
island? In like Greece or something?
he was in the Mediterranean Sea.
Mediterranean,
Yeah, because he was a Greek. And what's interesting is like the whole Gemstone file and a lot of the stuff that's talked about, it really like mirrors this James Bond movie. I think it's the Casino Royale, the one with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like the whole plot of the movie is that there's this billionaire named Willard White who is kidnapped by Blofeld, who's the main bad guy in the movie. And then Blofeld takes over his empire, and I mean, it's just like it really mirrors like so much of what is talked about in the Gemstone Files. It's kind of creepy. Yeah, and as someone mentioned in the comment,
Mark says Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, was in British intelligence.
British intelligence, he was. Yeah.
And hey, man, if you can't think up a good story, you can always just use some real shit that you happen to have.
Well, a lot
at
of
your
people,
disposal.
I mean, a lot of people say that's what happens is that a lot of these like movies and books are disclosure. They're about things that really happen. It's disguised as fiction.
Huh.
So
it's not the Jews we need to be worried about. It's the Greeks.
yeah, well, maybe. But yeah, the really crazy thing about the Howard Hughes empire, so, he went missing in the 1940s, and then what happened, or the 1950s, mid 1950s, and then what happened was these two groups of people moved in and took over his empire. And so one of the people who took it over was this guy, Bob Mayhew. And Bob Mayhew was like this super fascinating guy from history. After he died, he was alleged to be involved in the JFK assassination, like Robert Kennedy assassination. It was said that the TV show Mission Impossible was based off of Bob Mayhew's life because Bob Mayhew was a former FBI and CIA agent. Then he opened up his own agency, and
What do you mean his own agency?
his own like independent firm. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so what he talked about, he talked about this in interviews, how his first main clients were the FBI and the CIA because they would come to him and they would have what they called cutout missions, which was missions that they couldn't officially be involved in. So they hired this Bob Mayhew and his agency, and he had a whole bunch of contacts in the underworld with all the gangsters of the time. And so they would come to him to perform these missions, and then they wouldn't like officially be involved. And so anyway, this Bob Mayhew in the mid 1950s took over the Howard Hughes empire and started running it. Bob Mayhew was Howard Hughes's right-hand man for almost 20 years running the Howard Hughes empire, and he never once met Howard Hughes face to face.
What?
Not a single
That
time.
was that 20-year period where he was like...
Yeah, so that was the 20-year period where like basically no one saw Howard Hughes. Bob Mayhew ran the whole empire for almost 20 years, never once met Howard Hughes face to face. They only sent memos back and forth. And so it's just insane. And then what also happened around that time was there was this other group. They were called the Mormon Mafia. They also moved in and started controlling a big hunk of the Howard Hughes empire. And they're really mysterious because no one knows hardly anything about them.
I've never even heard of them until I was listening to your show.
Yeah, no one had heard of them, and it's just they were just a group of Mormons who moved in and took over this Howard Hughes empire. And what's weird is, so like Howard Hughes, he was involved in, he was a big military contractor, so he was involved in like developing all these planes and all this military equipment. I mean, he was involved in offshore drilling. He was involved in just a whole bunch. He really was like the Elon Musk of his time. He was involved in all these different industries. And then around like the late 1960s, all of a sudden, Howard Hughes, quote unquote Howard Hughes, he just suddenly moves to Las Vegas and he just starts buying up every casino in sight. And he basically just buys up the entire Las Vegas Strip. And so it's just really bizarre because at this point, Howard Hughes is supposedly this shriveled up shell of a man who, like you said, is peeing in mason jars. And
And were there
never
any
leave the
photos
house.
of him from that time?
Oh
Or
no,
nothing,
hell no,
nothing,
no,
nothing?
no, no. It's funny because like when he died in 1976, and when he died, the only photos any of these newspapers could find of him were from like 1953. So that they would just run these photos from 1953, over 2 decades old.
And
Of
now,
Howard
did he confirm? Like, do you believe that he died in the 70s, or do you think he died in like the 50s, or was it
Oh,
just
I
like?
think, I think he, yeah. I think he was definitely dead the whole time.
And
I-
why wait? Like, why wait 20 years to just be like, oh, he's dead now? Like, what?
Because it would have had a big impact on his empire. 'Cause,
Right.
'cause then he has like heirs, and it gets passed on to somebody else and everything. So they basically just pulled off this ruse that he was still alive, and they just bought up. I mean, they did buy up the entire Las Vegas Strip. All his companies got insanely big. He got involved in all this stuff. I mean, there was like a Howard Hughes Sports Network before ESPN even existed. And the Howard Hughes Sports Network was like ESPN, and it, really should have been just as big as ESPN. It was just kind of a little too far ahead of its time because cable TV wasn't really a thing. It was like the late 1950s when this Howard Hughes Sports Network. There's like a Howard Hughes Medical Institute that does like, cutting edge medical research. I mean, there's just all these
Yeah, he just had like tons of different businesses.
tons of them. Yeah. So it's
And so, how'd the family get kept at bay? Because you assume like his family would be like, yo,
well, he didn't have much family, really.
or whatever,
That's
whatever
why-
heirs you said, like, or
Yeah,
I
well, he
guess.
had an heir, and see, that was kind of another controversy. Is after he died, no one really knew who was going to get this, and so it eventually, like, a lot of it went to this like distant cousin, and there was kind of like a battle between these people who didn't even really know Howard Hughes, but they were like, distant blood relatives, and so they kind of had to prove that they were involved or related to such and such person who was related to such and such person. So it kind of turned into a whole mess after he died. But yeah, it's
Yeah, because it's like a public company now.
the Howard Hughes, his empire is the medical institute's still
I
around.
know that guy Bill Ackman actually owns a huge chunk of Howard Hughes.
Yeah,
that like famous investor dude.
Yeah,
like owns a huge part of it. Mark says Howard Hughes HH. Maybe he was a Fourth Reich stand-in for the escaped breakaway Nazis.
That is really interesting. Yeah, because that was something that has been kind of like speculated about. I mean, actually, it was kind of speculated that like the whole like battle that because what ended up happening was there was this Bob Mayhew who I mentioned ran a big chunk of the empire, and then there was also the Mormon Mafia who ran a big chunk of the empire. And in the early 1970s, they had a freaking just all-out brawl for total control of the empire. And so they really just like didn't get along with one another by that point, and they had this huge brawl. And what people have speculated actually was it was actually like the Mormon Mafia was Jewish. They weren't Mormon at all. It was just a fake thing.
Oh.
And then the whole Bob Mayhew and like his clique, they were Nazis.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean,
They were like American Nazis?
Yeah, they were like people who'd come over.
But like, were they Germans or were they like how they had that like famous Madison Square Garden Nazi rally and they're all American Nazis? Like they were those ones?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I have to look into it a little more. I'm not sure. But that was at least one thing I read was like it was really like a kind of like a continuation of World War II, and it was Nazis versus Jews for the control of this Howard Hughes empire.
Classic story.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time. All right, we got a call here. Let's take a call. Phone lines are open, everybody. If you have any questions, 1-888-949-2969. I assume I know who this is, but we'll see. Hello, you're on Low Value Mail. You're on with Andy.
Hey, you guys were talking about the Challenger, and I was wondering if you had any insight about Flight 77, because the supposed plane that hit the Pentagon, which I'm of the belief it was a cruise missile.
Slav, did you see the TMZ just put out a documentary like last week? I think I was talking about it on Bathhouse maybe, but TMZ like put out about the 5th plane on 9/11.
Nah.
I don't know why TMZ put this out, but TMZ put out. If you go on, it was like the weirdest thing for them to put out.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, when TMZ is controlled by a Jew, anyways. But my whole thing with Flight 77.
Yeah, this is exposing the 9/11 cover-up. TMZ investigates the 5th plane.
Yeah, but with Flight 77, I always the story that I always thought like seemed most reasonable was it got diverted to a NASA hangar in Ohio, and they disembarked everyone off the plane and just executed them in the hangar, and it never got spoke about. And plus, I mean, dude, even as a little kid, I knew that Pentagon stuff was all bullshit because there was a time when Glenn Beck was on CNN. Like everyone thinks like he's all this some sort of conservative. There was a time when he was on CNN, and he literally played that. In 2007, he played the only supposed CCTV footage from the Pentagon, and he was like yelling, "What is that? It looks like, what is that? A white elephant?" And I was laughing my ass off, and I got chastised by my parents because they're like, "What?" They're like, I'm like, I was laughing my ass off.
Yeah, your parents are probably like, "We are new to the country. Do not fuck this up for us."
Yeah, I mean, I've never understood, like, well, the Pentagon, you know, is supposedly like the most secure building in the United States. Like, there's just security cameras covering every square inch, absolutely everywhere. And so it's just always been weird to me, and other people have talked about it.
I mean, the way that plane, assuming, like, even if you believe it's a plane, like, all these people are like, you could not fly a plane like that so close to the ground.
Yeah, right.
And just directly hit it like that angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that Donald Rumsfeld, that whole act of him running out and helping people is like, I know that motherfucker was just standing in a hallway looking at his watch being like, any moment now, any moment now.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, again, it's like, I guess if what Andy believes is to be true with the Challenger and the Gander flight, then this is probably small time shit in comparison.
What is he? Since y'all were talking about Howard Hughes, did he have any opinion on the Jew? Like similar to that of Charles Lindbergh or Henry Ford?
Henry Ford?
Who warned us? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think he did. Yeah. No, I don't think Howard Hughes was that outspoken or anything like that.
It wasn't crazy on the Jews?
No.
Good guy. I like him. Not a big fan of that Henry Ford. I'm actually mostly pissed off because I named my comedy special The International Jew, and then I go, for sure this will rank higher than the actual International Jew, and it still doesn't. I was like, this is the thing that should come up when you search The International Jew. That was part of the whole troll. Never worked out.
And what is it? Last question. Can you like think of any conspiracy or any historical event that does not involve a single Jew?
No, we're
like
everywhere.
Influence.
We're in all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, no.
Yeah, we do well. We do well for ourselves. All right, Slav.
Later.
Slav, everybody. Oh, speaking of the piss master himself, here we go. Not to bring my other show into the mix here, but we have Rube Star. Rube Star, what's up, man?
Danny, please, Rube Juice.
Rube Juice. I'm not calling you Rube Juice. Rube Juice is your piss.
Right, I'm saying nobody wants to be known as the guy drinking piss, so just can we refer to it as Rube Juice?
Oh, my bad. Rube Juice. The Rube Juice man himself, Rube Star. What's up?
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is a movie about Chuck Bears.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Do you know anything about it?
I'm like vaguely familiar with it. Yeah, because he was he ran the game show, right? And then they would give away like trips to people who supposedly won trips on the game show, and then he would accompany them on these trips, and he was actually like a hitman for the CIA. That's kind of the 20,000 foot view of it, right?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had anything else like you had uncovered or stumbled across.
No, I have. I've never really looked into it. It's really strange case. I would actually like to look into that and do a bit more because anytime there's like a because I think there was a George Clooney movie about it. Anytime there's like a Hollywood adaptation of like a real actual event, typically there's like way more to the story. I mean, like the Howard Hughes thing, for instance, there was that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, which I mean doesn't even tell 5% of the story. So there's a lot of movies like that Hollywood puts out that just never get into the really good stuff. And so I imagine this whole story would probably be kind of similar to that.
And what was that guy doing? He was just going and just working for the government, just killing people all over the world.
Yeah, he was a CIA agent. He was a game show host. So he was like a Bob Barker,
What was the movie? I don't think I've seen this movie.
I thought it was Sam Rockwell was the.
Oh, was it?
actor.
Okay, yeah.
But it's called. It's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and the game show.
Oh,
is
right.
called The Dating Game.
Yeah. I remember. I haven't seen this, but Confessions of 2002. Interesting. I didn't know that was.
On Aristotle Onassis, so he marries Jacqueline Kennedy, right?
Right.
So it was always like painted or portrayed to me that like he swooped in and was like very protective of her, like a knight in shining armor. But after hearing this, it's more like, did she marry him against her will?
Right.
Or, like if stories about the Howard Hughes is being kidnapped, this is, and also I'm a bit into astrology. And Aristotle Onassis' birthday is January 20th, which is like such a crazy gambling, freewheeling week. It's called the Week of Mystery. Yeah, it's called the Week of Mystery, Imagination, and Violence. It's when Capricorn goes into Aquarius. It's a bit of both.
Nice.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Who else is a January 20th?
Oh, I think that's like Jim Carrey's that week. There's like 3 or 4 boxers. I'm kind of going by the week, not the exact day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like if you just knew people in that week, man, they're out there. They're brilliant and they're zany.
Yeah.
Huh? When was Howard Hughes' birthday?
I think he's like December 23rd, 4th, or 5th. He's another cusp sign.
December
also.
24th. I can't believe you just know Howard Hughes' birthday. That's crazy. Crazier
It's
than Howard
cusp
Hughes.
of prophecy. Yeah. But they can be reclusive, so it's not that hard for me to think that he became reclusive. But I mean, this is just and you know what? This is crazy. It's the first time I ever heard of these gemstone papers.
The Gemstone Files?
Yeah, man.
How did you come across them, Andy?
I just randomly found them on the internet one day, and like I said, there's some books that I talk about in the video that have been written about them, and there's been like 4 or 5 books written about the Gemstone File over the years, and like I said, in the 70s, they were a pretty big deal. They kind of just were almost like one of the first things to go viral because they were just printed off by one person or by a couple people and passed around to friends, and those friends would make copies, pass them to other friends, and just kind of caught fire that way.
Huh. Yeah, it doesn't really, like, even the Wikipedia doesn't really dispute them. It just says that they exist.
Yeah, and there's not much info out. It's pretty hard to find. It's been kind of forgotten about over the years, but yeah, it's just crazy. Like just all the info that's covered in there.
Huh. How long? It's only 20 pages?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a weird thing. So this Bruce Roberts who wrote it, he actually initially wrote something like, he wasn't a professional writer or anything. He would just like, almost like stream of conscious, just write down things he was learning. And so it wasn't organized or anything like that. And he apparently had like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of pages of his writings. And he sent them to this lady named Mae Brussel, who was like this big researcher during this era. And she didn't really know what to make of them or have the time to go through them. So she gave them to a friend of hers who went through the whole thing, read it all, and then organized it into like a 20-page summary. And so this 20-page summary that this writer friend of hers, her name was Stephanie Caruana, she wrote this 20-page summary of Bruce Roberts' original, like hundreds upon hundreds of pages. And so it's that 20-page summary that, you know, is kind of referred to as the Gemstone File, even though the real actual Gemstone File was apparently really massive. It was just, you know, very unorganized.
Yeah. Huh. I wonder if there were things that were in there that got left out.
Oh, I think there were. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because you can find some of them on the internet. I included a link in the video. I think I mentioned it. But you can find some of the original writings that were transcribed. And this guy, Bruce Roberts, he lived in San Francisco. And so San Francisco plays a big part in the whole thing. And he even mentions like Nancy Pelosi in his writings.
Really? Does he have the guy who wrote it? Does he have any family still alive that's known?
I have no idea. Yeah, I really don't know. I doubt. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
You gotta go like track them down. That's what I think you gotta do. Is you gotta go find them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I bet they would know some shit. Maybe they don't want to. They've probably been threatened with death their entire lives, but
yeah,
maybe there's something there.
Yeah,
might be worth it. Anything else there, Rube?
No, that's it.
Cool. Good talking to you, buddy. Rube Star, everybody. Go try Rube's famous Rube juice. All right, let's take another call here. We have... Hello? You're on Low Value Man. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Danny.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, it's Tony.
Tony, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? I'm going to be a little quick. I just wanted to shoot one question at this guy.
Yeah.
So those papers, it kind of started off with the dude making gems or crystals himself, right?
Yeah.
So, like figuring out how it's done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked into it all, how much like crystals are used in tech nowadays?
No, I haven't looked into that at all.
Okay. I'm only mentioning it because there's another show that I listen to, and the girl's all obsessed with crystals.
Oh,
she talks about it
what a
often.
surprise.
But it kind of could just be a hidden thing where everything else they're telling them is just to make them not think about that angle. Like all this tech that we're using is way out there. Where did it all come from? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
But,
girls are into crystals for different reasons. They're just like they're not doing any science, that's for sure. There ain't
No, I know. And well, okay, another stance of my crystal person that I like. You know how you see like a big, I don't know, people say, "Oh, it's a giant tree that was cut down," type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, like a mountain. And they say it's a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and her stance is that she kind of thinks that is a crystal because that's how crystals grow and blah, blah, blah. And I only brought up to her one time in that Charlie's Angel movie. There's like a line in that movie where I forgot who it is that says it, but they say like, "Oh, diamonds take time and each one's unique." But then how she's talked about how they can make diamonds and crystals and stuff. That's a bullshit line from Charlie's Angels.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, just crystals are very interesting. It could be, I don't know, the whole thing. It could be a big answer to it all.
Yeah,
Tech
crystals.
included.
I don't know of any technology that like uses specifically like crystals as some main component. I'm trying to think.
It would surprise you. I will double back on it, and Danny will come back around. I'll bring some good intel your way.
All right, sounds good, man.
Sounds good. And sorry, I kind of lost my voice, so I'm going to keep it a little short. But
it's all
thanks,
good.
guys.
Mark says every computer, every single computer has crystals in it. What kind of crystals are in every single computer? You're saying my computer? Is that why I had lagging issues at the beginning? I don't know. I mean, I guess quartz. Yeah, I guess quartz. I guess the quartz counts as a. He says on every graphic card. I thought they were all like metal and shit. All right, I don't know. Do you cover like more recent stuff, or is all the shit you cover mostly like historical?
Mostly historical, like pretty focused on 70s and 80s. I've done a few like.
What was the water?
stuff.
What was the Watergate? In the Gemstone Files that he references Watergate.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting link to Watergate because
Is it Aristotle Onassis again?
Yeah, well,
that guy was fucking meddling and everything.
Well, what's interesting is so there's this guy Hank Greenspun, and he was
Oh,
the
here we
editor. And he was the editor of the Las Vegas Sun in Las Vegas, and it was like one of the most powerful, newspapers in Las Vegas at the time that Howard Hughes was there and buying up all Las Vegas. And so anyway, it kind of got tied into Watergate because after Watergate happened, or actually like during while Watergate was happening, people tried to break into this Hank Greenspun guy's office, and he had a safe in his office. And so investigators of Watergate, like down the road, the official investigations and whatnot, thought that there was a link between these people breaking into Hank Greenspun's office and the people who broke into the Watergate complex. And so Hank Greenspun was called out to testify during the Watergate hearings. Anyway, they asked him what the people were after. They thought it was tied into Watergate. And he said, no, it had nothing to do with Watergate. What these people who broke into my safe, or what these people who broke into my office were after, they were after my Howard Hughes file. And they asked him, well, what's in the Howard Hughes file? He's like, I will go to the can for life rather than tell you what's in my Howard Hughes file. Yeah. And so there's always kind of like this mystery around like, well, what is in this Hank Greenspun's blackmail file? Because it sounds like it was like a blackmail file that he kept in his safe in his office, and no one's ever found that out. But he has that quote that he said, I'll go to the can for life rather than tell you what's in my Howard Hughes file. So
whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He's a real interesting guy too, because he was before he bought his newspaper in Las Vegas, he got caught smuggling weapons to Israel, like heavy duty shit, like machine guns and stuff, through Mexico. This was in like 1947 or so, around there. He got caught with that, thrown in jail for a while, and then after he got out, he had enough money to buy up the Las Vegas Sun newspaper and turned.
He was in jail in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a slap on the wrist. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hank Greenspun. Yeah.
Hank Greenspun. Okay. Let's take some more calls here. We got Kevin here. Let's go to Kevin. See where he's at. Hold on. I think it's *61. I still don't know what it is to unmute yourself. Kevin, are you there? No. All right. This is what always happens is I'm going to mute the next person, and then in that time, he's going to mute himself, and then we're going to have two people talking at once. But we'll try. All right. Peter, are you there?
Yeah. Hi, I'm here.
What's up? You're on with Andy. Go ahead.
So, sorry, I missed the first, hour of your show. I was on the wrong YouTube channel. But I am out of the loop on all the conspiracies you were talking about. Basically, if you have any... I came in at Howard Hughes.
We were talking about the conspiracies around Howard Hughes' death and how he disappeared for 20 years.
That's a deep rabbit hole. For crystals, just a quick overview. Your chat.
Yeah, I've seen the chat. I realize I'm retarded. I get it. Can't know everything.
The lasers thing stopped mattering after about 1970. The way more important one is the one people have mentioned is monocrystal and silicon, and powers every single digital circuit today.
What's monocrystal?
If you look it up, it's like a giant, a very large cylinder. So have you ever seen a picture of when they're doing chip fabrication? There's usually about a foot wide circle that has a bunch of weird oil slick kind of looking stuff on it.
Yeah,
that's a single slice called a wafer of a long single crystal ingot that they pull out of a vat of molten silicon.
But do they make it or do they
And,
mine it? It
oh,
says
no,
that
they
all
make it.
solar panels
They-
are monocrystalline solar panels.
Yeah, I forget about. I mean, there's yes to the general thing. I don't know if the monocrystalline silicon that they use in making solar panels, or they also have polycrystalline.
Okay.
All of this has to do with getting a homogeneous, with getting the same electronic properties across the surface of the entire crystal. And if you can ensure that literally every vertical row of silicon atoms are all spaced evenly.
Silicon
then
is
you
just
can,
sand, right?
You know, print. Sand is silicon dioxide and a bunch of other stuff. Pure silicon is a shiny metal. It looks like steel or anything else.
Oh, okay. And it's mined.
Yeah, it's mined generally from sand. I think is the main feedstock for a lot of the global silicon. It's an entire very complex supply chain because, you know, if you know anything about how computers are made, it goes from people who have to make very pure silicon dioxide sand, and then it's the people who make very pure silicon, which is still far from the end. Then it goes to people who have to make that very pure batch or billet of silicon metal into a single homogeneous crystal. You look it up on the internet.
Yeah, I'm
it
looking
kinda
at these
looks like how
giant
people used to make-
silicon ingots that they basically make. These,
Yeah.
like, giant, like, looks like a giant, like, tube.
You
And
remember
then
making rock candy as a kid?
No, I didn't have a fun childhood. I didn't get to make raw candy. Sounds fun though.
Okay. It's a thing where you would get a cup of water, you'd throw a shit ton of sugar in it, and you'd stick a string down in it, and gradually you'd build up crystals along the string.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense if you never did that as a kid.
I think I know what you're
But
talking about, actually.
Yeah, the concept is to get from one single group of, from one single small crystal of silicon to build like a fucking 1,000-pound giant ingot of monocrystalline silicon. And
Gotcha.
monocrystalline is the only thing you're using for digital circuits. For solar panels, there's much lower tolerances.
Why do you know so much about this?
I don't know where my keys are, man, but I know random shit like that.
You know, so this isn't even like you don't even work in this stuff. You just know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, for Howard Hughes, you can't get me started, man. Other than, you know, the CIA connections are deep. And I think the guy was a patriot. If you're ever out in California, and first of all, if you need a good Howard Hughes documentary, Project Azorian, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, the whole thing about raising a Soviet sub. They still have the barge that attached the claw to the bottom of Howard Hughes, you know, the Howard Hughes owned vessel that picked the Soviet submarine up in San Francisco Bay somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know there was a crazy Howard. So you've been down the Howard Hughes rabbit hole, I take it?
Yeah, and to be
Do you
clear,
think he
I
died?
didn't
Do you think he
go
died in
to
the
bottom.
70s?
Oh yeah, he definitely died. The guy.
No, he died, but I'm
I
saying
never saw that. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I never saw the movie The Aviator, and I don't think he was involved with like E. Howard Hunt or any of those guys from the Kennedy to Watergate kind of edge of the CIA. I think Howard Hughes, because keep in mind his dad was a oil industry. He made drill bits for the oil industry down in Texas. So he kind of came in, and aside from being a rich playboy, he had access to a shit ton of manufacturing capabilities. And it was a much more informal era, the CIA. And so when they needed gadgets and, you know, a giant claw to go on the bottom of a ship, they turned to guys kind of like him. And Howard
Sure.
Hughes just kind of was easier than most of the other dudes in his category because he was such a nutcase. He was such a recluse, really took security seriously, etc. And he was
Interesting.
loaded.
Interesting.
Anyway, you guys do a great show. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's all I
Appreciate
have
it.
to contribute.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
Cheers. Take care. Good
All
time.
right.
Bye.
I got to go more down this Howard Hughes rabbit hole. All right. Let's take one more call, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. We have R-worded again. You can just say it. I think you can just say it. But I guess that's his YouTube name. Yo, what's up? Yeah, they won't let you make that on as your YouTube name.
Man, it's me again.
Hey.
Hey, dude, you know that you have 2 YouTube channels?
I have 2 YouTube channels? What do you mean?
Like you have Low Value Mail, and then there's another one.
Yeah,
So,
this is
like,
so I
when
stream
you
it on my
say
comedy. Yeah, I stream it on my comedy channel just so more people can see it.
Ah, okay. I was just saying because it might fucking tighten shit up together if you just build one.
I
But
know.
anyway,
You know what?
that's
I
not my
used to.
thing.
Oh yeah, no. I used to stream it all on the one channel, and then when I would stream it on the other channel, I would just get more views overall. So I just decided to do it on that.
But shit, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh, dude, Howard Hughes, pre-1930, was Batman. As soon as Howard Hughes came along, Batman was Howard Hughes. Dude, fucking, he invented everything. Dude, everything was Howard Hughes. That's all I'm gonna say. Batman,
All right.
Bruce Wayne, Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
All right,
Interesting.
man. Peace.
Do we know if the creator of Batman ever said that?
Bob Kane, but there's a lot of literature that goes into it because, dude, you gotta read the comics, man.
Yeah. All right. Cool, man. Thanks for calling.
All right, man. Peace.
All right. That's been the show. Andy, where can people find you? I guess your YouTube channel is the best place.
Yeah, YouTube channel is the best place. I mean, I'm on all the social medias, not super active, but that's the goal, to kind of get more active on there. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, control-alt-history, Instagram,
All that
TikTok,
stuff.
all that fun stuff.
But the main stuff goes on YouTube.
Yeah, the main stuff is longer videos on YouTube.
Okay. We actually have one more caller coming in. Let's hold on, let Mark answer it. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Hold on. Mark's answering it right now. We'll take this one last call, and then we will. It takes a second for Mark to pull it up for us, but in the meantime, go check out your YouTube, Control-Alt-HISTORY, and we're going to, once Andy leaves us here, we're gonna go spin the wheel. All right, let's take this last call of the night. We have Jacob. I can't remember if I'm not supposed to read these people's names or not, but I didn't use the last name, so it's fine. Please unmute yourself, Jacob. We run a very tight ship here. There he is. Jacob, you there? Hey, what's up?
Me.
You are on Low Value Mail.
Geez, I'm trying to unmute myself, and apparently that didn't work out too well. But,
Yeah, it's all good. We can hear you.
Anyway, so no, it's all good. I was just curious, are we still on with the guest?
Yeah, he's still here.
Yeah, so I'm curious because I've looked at his channel, Control-Alt-HISTORY, if that's what it is.
Yep.
And I kind of want to go back to the whole, the Pentagon thing and the fact that they put out, I don't know, like 2 or 3 frames of what's supposed to be a plane hitting the building. And then, prior to that, you've got the admission of all these trillions of dollars and, it just coincidentally hit that certain area of the Pentagon. I'm just curious if the guest has any, input or reaction of the fact that there were several cameras, several buildings, gas stations, light poles that got
Tons of
brought
shit
down by.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most suspicious things about the whole 9/11 thing is how there's this building, the Pentagon, which is probably the most guarded building in, the United States, maybe the world, security cameras everywhere, and nothing, even 20 years later has ever been shown.
Yeah. I mean, we had the guy from
unbelievable.
there's this thing in upstate New York. It's called like the Center for 9/11 Justice. It's like all these engineers and stuff. And
Yeah.
he came on the show and his whole thing was like all those phone calls on 9/11. He's like, it was impossible for them to even like be made and they're all
Yeah.
fake basically. And I think he was saying some of them were like actors or they were like reading a script, like all
Mhm.
the stuff. There was like all these weird things about the phone calls and there was all these like discrepancies with the phone calls and timing of them being placed and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks there's like a way grander thing. But he
Yeah.
runs like this, like normal. No, I don't want to say normal, but like it's like a nonprofit, and like all the people associated with it are all just like engineers, and
Yeah.
they're not like some kooks. Like you talk to this guy, you're like, this isn't some kook, like at all.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
never heard that.
If you're talking specifically about like architects and engineers of 9/11 truth, I mean that's a huge deal because that there are people. I mean, much more knowledgeable than myself that actually have the knowledge and research, and they
Yeah, exactly.
they've studied this stuff for years, and I mean this is going on because I was in. I won't say where I was, but I was overseas. I saw the towers fall when I was serving, and come home and realized, later on in the early 2000s, after watching, actually it was the Bohemian Grove bullshit, and
Yeah.
started going down a rabbit hole and realizing like, okay, some of this stuff's not adding up. And now there's so much information to access to information that you can actually see. I mean, especially on X, I just saw a video a couple nights ago of one of the tenants that lived in an apartment next to the second tower. I mean, just the full video of the thing coming down. And I think it's pretty convenient that as time goes on, they're slow releasing.
Yeah, the
this
fact that like
evidence
25 years later, you're just like, and there's a new video, and you're like, how's that even possible?
Yeah, and now compound that with AI, and it's like, well, what do you trust this day? Like, because somebody could put out something, and it's like, well, shit, is that real or is it not? But I think if you kind of compartmentalize it and keep it to specific things, like, for example, Tower 7 or even Tower 6, for that matter. People don't know about Tower 6, the hole that was blasted in the middle of it. Let alone the Pentagon and the fact that there was all these, important documents and trillions of whatever missing. And, let's not talk about, the insurance, the 200-year.
Sure. I mean, there was a million, man. Yeah, there was the explosions on the ground floor and all this stuff. Yeah.
Mr. Pullet.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, Mr. Pullet.
Just pull it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lot of weird shit. All right, man. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one. All right. That has been the show for realsies. Thank you very much again, Andy, for coming on. Everybody go check out his YouTube channel. And you have any, what do you have coming up next for videos?
I got a story about the Vicky Morgan scandal, which was this super crazy sex scandal in the 1980s that involved a lot of people close to Ronald Reagan. It's a wild one. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And these are all just things where you're like, yeah, there's like, you can just find this stuff. It's just nobody talks about it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it just got forgotten about. Like it's, Watergate type stuff, and it just got swept under the rug. I mean, it was a big deal for a hot minute, a week or so, and then it's just kind of been forgotten about over the years.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, everybody, have a look out for that, and appreciate you coming on. Thanks, man.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Andy Hunt, everybody. All right, I'm going to spin the wheel. We got a wheel to spin. I don't want one moment, please, everybody. While I figure this out. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me again on a action-packed episode of Low Value Mail. Let's spin. I gotta pull up the wheel to spin it. I don't know how I do this, guys. You think I would get better at this stuff? And don't forget to tune in to a new episode of The Bathhouse. I'm gonna give away a 6-month Patreon.com membership right now. And if you want to support the show, you can do so. Head on over to patreon.com/lowvaluemail, MAIL. Sign up for a membership. I'm back on doing the extra audio episode once a week. It's usually like 30 to 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And it's mostly just me sick rambling. If you've caught them, where the hell is this thing? Oh God, guys, this is just I don't see this anywhere. Normally it's available. All right, I might. Did I close it, guys? I'm so bad at this. Oh, here it is. This is where it is. Haha, there we go. This is riveting. This is absolutely riveting stuff right here. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna spin the wheel. Let's make it a little bigger so we can see it. This is really good content right here. This is the content that we all love here. And the winner is... Guys, I do this all by myself. Come on. The winner is Tony Coriolis, who I don't think it's a Patreon.com membership. Tony, DM me anywhere that you have DMs, whatever the hell that means. Get a hold of me. You can email lowvaluemailquestions@gmail.com. However you can get a hold of me, I'm easy to get a hold of. I'll give you a 6-month Patreon.com membership. And again, I'm going to give away $500. Shout out to our producer, Mark, for helping me out with this. Shout out to all of you for supporting the show, watching the show. You're the best. See you tomorrow night. God willing. I don't know who the hell might drop into the stand, but for now, we're good. That has been the show. Good night, everybody. See you next week.
Really a poet, you know it, all my shit heroic. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can fit his hit if you up or if you hurt. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenal. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me laugh like comic view, they comical. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. And they tried to down me on some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. Ha. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Then they tried to down me on some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. Ha.